I chain smoke and I say fuck a lot. But I accept myself for the way I am. I accept you too. Viewer discretion advised. I can only hope by the time this video uploads that part 1 will still be up. I've had to redo it 3 times, tweak it a little here and there to try to get past censorship. If not, I'll leave links to BitChute and DTUBE below to Mogul Part 1. And now, I bring you Mogul Part 2. So continuing John Doe's Twitter, in this thread, David Geffen. Speaking of Bryan Singer, this line from April 2016 details the Gay Mafia wars. Allegedly, David Geffen was a leader of one side with Singer as his chosen heir, and Merv Griffith was on the other side with Ryan Seacrest as his chosen heir. Some weird shit, huh? Today's blind items, the new Gay Mafia. Old Hollywood through today is littered with rumors and stories about the Gay Mafia. Back in the day, when coming out was a complete end to your movie or TV career, it was a form of protection for those in the industry that were gay. That protection aspect is what led to the moniker of Mafia. Unlike the Mafia, there was nothing illegal or untoward about it. It really was protection. It was a situation of, you are our friend and we love you, so let's keep you working and make the world think you are heterosexual. We will keep the press from reporting anything about you that would hurt you, and we'll make sure the studios keep you steadily working. At some point in the history of Hollywood, it started to become more sinister. The self-appointed leader of it started acting more like a Don, FC, rather than a friend. If you wanted protection and to work, you had to bow down to him and kiss the ring, so to speak. I don't think that's what they were kissing. If he wanted you to do a project, you had to do it. If you crossed this Don in any way, he would do his best to make sure you never worked. He has had that kind of power. His power is slipping though. Back in the day, there was an alternative to the Don, a different power broker, SE, who had just as much money, but believed in the old school way of helpful protection rather than trying to make a buck off the protection. His specialty was finding people just starting out. He wanted to instill in them the old values he had grown up with in a homophobic industry. The kind one groomed this person, KU, to be his successor. KU has become wildly successful, and he has projects everywhere. He is a mogul, much like his benefactor. In front of the camera and behind the camera, the same as his benefactor. Side projects outside the industry and projects that will keep bringing in money no matter what. He's a master of the helpful protection game. He's trying to do the same things he was taught that he thinks will help another generation of performers. Fighting him every step of the way is the Don, and his chosen replacement, MX. They believe that help should be given only when something is there for them in return. They also believe in the casting couch. If you want to get a project or get ahead, you're going to have to sleep your way to the top. If you stop doing what they say or stop having sex with them, they will cast you aside. They will make it impossible to find work in the town, and if you try to cross them in any way, they will bring you down, often with violence. Why would anyone subject themselves to that? Because it's a quicker route to fame. The other way requires years of working and moving up the ladder. You gotta do the work. The helpful mentors steer you in the right direction or find you projects, but you have to prove yourself. Caught in the middle of these factions is someone, TW, who got his start in the Sex for Play group. He was their boy toy for a long time and he got work, big work. Then all of a sudden he was gone off the radar. He went from a franchise to starring in his own movies as the lead, and then nothing. He started to rebel and he was done. He made enough of a name for himself that he could work a little, but no big projects. Enter the Savior. At a party about 18 months ago, KU ran into TW and they started talking. A lot. The party turned into an all-night session and lots of days and nights over the next few weeks. A bond was formed. He also sees someone in TW like himself. A different kind of self, who's more interested in front of the camera than behind. KU has enough projects and clout on his side of the aisle, so to speak, to keep TW working. But also someone who wants to do more than just act. KU believes that TW can be the next KU and also follow in the footsteps of SE. Even though SE is dead, still has a lasting impact in Hollywood. SE's estate makes more money than most A-list actors working today. 11/12/2017, Empty Blind. A Long Blind details the alleged backstory behind the Don Henley hit song Dirty Laundry. Enty writes that Henley drugged and raped a teen girl, and David Geffen helped bribe a lot of people to keep the story quiet. I've already done a video on this months ago. I'll leave a link to this also, but here's some highlights. That November, holed up in his California mansion a week before Thanksgiving, the rocker made his usual call to his usual madam, number 6, and he requested the usual for dinner. The usual for him meant young girls, and he had done this many times, both at home and on the road. The madam routinely searched for new talent at bus stops and runaway shelters. She had just found a new 16-year-old girl who looked young and liked to party. She was also very desperate and very scared. When the madam made the offer for her for a night's work, it seemed safe enough with a huge star. The madam promised no sex involved, that the rocker just liked to hang out and smoke dope and drink. Still, the runaway asked if she could bring a friend. And yes, the madam sent 2 underage girls to the rocker's palace that night. The friend accompanying the 16-year-old runaway was another homeless girl who had just turned 15 years old that week. She had just run away from a violently abusive home and was still a virgin. The madam got to double bill the rocker for that visit. On arrival, the girls were fed cocaine to get them excited and Quaaludes to keep them calm. The rocker got more and more violent. He kept taking Polaroid pictures of them all, doing everything which embarrassed the girls. After the 15-year-old passed out, he began raping her. Then he began raping the 16-year-old. When the younger girl woke up, she was scared to death and saw her friend was having convulsions. The rocker was ignoring her, yelling on the phone, talking to somebody later revealed to be number 2. The paramedics arrived. They walked into the scene that they described as Sodom and Gomorrah, with drugs, vomit, and booze everywhere. Both underage girls were totally naked, although the younger of the 2 began trying to dress. The paramedics did CPR on the girl as she was unresponsive. Then she went back into seizures. The 15-year-old said it was like a nightmare and she tried to sneak away from the room. The rocker was freaking out, talking to people on the phone, until the guys in suits showed up. They threatened the paramedics to stay silent. The men in suits told the younger runaway they would take care of her and stay with them. The older runaway was put in an ambulance, and the younger one begged paramedics to take her too. When one of the suits tried to interfere, a paramedic shoved him and threatened to kick his ass. Off to the hospital they went. The rocker, his manager, and the other men in suits stayed behind. What none of them knew at the time was the 15-year-old managed to grab several of the Polaroids and shove them into her clothes. At the time, she was petrified of the cops or parents finding out, and the proof of her activity was all in those Polaroids. So she grabbed them when the others were distracted to destroy them later. At the hospital, the older girl was given medication to save her. Uniformed cops arrived and took statements from both girls. Hours later, one of the men in suits showed up with a bus ticket and an envelope of cash for the 15-year-old. They told her to leave town, not to testify or talk to anybody, or she'd be arrested or worse. She left town that day. Number 2 and number 3 wound up spending a lot of cash that Thanksgiving to lawyers, to pay off cops, paramedics, and even a judge. Several reporters were paid thousands to kill the story. Since so many people knew about it, the cops had little choice but to do something, so they handed the case over to a detective who was a friend of theirs, an elite golden boy in the LAPD. He was a friend with the madam, too, and became head of the LAPD Sexually Exploited Children's Unit in Vice. Mostly his time was taking bribes from executives and covering up cases. The detective made sure the case got downgraded and the evidence was lost. With the judge's help, the entire nightmare for the rocker wound up far different than that of Roman Polanski years before. So it was then the rocker was convicted of contributing to delinquency of a minor, given a $2,500 fine, and put on probation. No mention of rape, soliciting, or abuse of the girls. No word on what happened to the 22 grams of cocaine. God damn! 22 grams. 5 ounces of marijuana. 160 Quaaludes found in the rocker's bedroom. The 16-year-old runaway got out of the hospital and was found dead near 101 freeway a year later, allegedly an overdose. Friends of hers and workers at a local shelter said she cleaned up, gone straight, and was trying to turn her life around. Her death was ruled as an accidental overdose. Many never believed it. Since he split from the band, his new solo career was taking off. He turned his Hurt Feelings into a song which became a global hit. Sure, he said it was about the media coverage of number 7 and others, but he later admitted it was about his unfair abuse at the hands of a mean reporter, a song that was spawned by his abuse, rape, and drugging of 2 children who nearly died due to his perversions. The rocker spent much of the next 20 years rehabilitating his image, becoming a big political supporter and environmental activist. Became big pals with 2 big politicians, number 8 and number 9, whom he met at events at number 3's house. He played fundraisers for them both. He was never asked again in the media about that November, and it faded away mostly. Funny enough, you can still find it online, and yet nobody compares him to Polanski or these other monsters. Meanwhile, he became filthy rich, as did his powerful manager and the powerful record label executive. Their images are all bought and paid for. What they didn't know, however, and still don't, is what became of the other girl, who took the bus ticket, cash, and blew town. She too turned her life around, got straight, and found good people in Northern California to take her in. She went to college, found a nice man, had a family, and settled down. The nice man she married would go on to a nice career in politics, and with his wife's support, he's become one of the most powerful men in California politics. Now, all the years later, that scared runaway girl has grown into a confident, fearless, brilliant woman. She spent the last few years putting her story and case meticulously back together piece by piece legally. In 2018, she's going to drop a bomb of a reveal on the rocker, the manager, and the ex-label executive. She's prepared a criminal charge against them for many of their misdeeds, which include racketeering and collusion and criminal conspiracy, and is also hitting them with civil charges, with any funds being set aside for childhood victims. But you see, those Polaroids she swiped that night, she blew town with them. Years later, she found them and put them in a safe deposit box. Along with hospital records, court records, legal affidavits from old cops and paramedics. There's even a video deposition from the original madam back from before her death. And former Golden Boy detective, he was later caught for his many misdeeds and arrested. He talked too. And on the comments on Crazy Days and Nights, I'm pretty sure Dog Mom got them all right. So just to be clear, number one, permanent A-list singer from a permanent A-list group, Don Henley, the Eagles. Number two, the manager of number one and many others, Irving Azoff. Number three, top 3 entertainment mogul, you don't want to mess with him, David Geffen. Number 4, A-plus list singer back in the day, probably permanent A-list singer, Stevie Nicks. Number 5, permanent A-list celebrity, Jimmy Levine. Number 6, celebrity madam who has passed, Elizabeth Adams, aka Madam Alex. Number 7, permanent A-list actress who was murdered, Natalie Woods. Number 8, permanent A-plus list celebrity, Bill Clinton. Number 9, permanent A-plus list celebrity, spouse of number 8, Hillary Clinton. And a bonus, ex-LAPD detective, Michael Brambles. 12/8/2017, Auntie writes that, quote, "It was no accident. TMZ spotted and interviewed Bryan Singer in LA because Harvey Levin, quote, had been given his instructions by someone even more powerful. I'm guessing that would be the record mogul himself, David Geffen." Blind item number 1. It was no accident this A-list director was spotted in LA and that he answered questions. The whole thing had been planned out in advance with the person who runs the operation. He himself had been given instructions by someone even more powerful.
How does it feel that someone's taken over your passion project?
Not so bad. As I said, most of it's done.
So most of it's done?
Yeah, most of it's shot.
Do you think it's in good hands?
Yeah, it's in great hands. Great
Dexter
crew,
Fletcher,
great team.
good guy?
Yeah, and Dexter's a great guy.
Can you tell us anything about why you were fired?
No. I don't know. I couldn't tell you.
I mean, what happened? Like, what did you expect it?
Yeah, maybe. I don't know.
You kind of expected it. Why? Why?
I don't know. I don't know. I don't know if this story's over yet. So we'll see what
I mean, like, were you blindsided or like?
No. I just, I'm not good judging human behavior, and sometimes see when people see the forest for the trees or when they don't.
Yeah, I mean, there's all kind of rumors that maybe like you and Rami Malek didn't get around, you threw something at him.
No, not at all. No,
that's
absolutely untrue. No. In fact, we were having a great couple of weeks, but my mother had some health problems, and I had to deal with those, and I published a statement.
So the health?
My statement was quite accurate, actually.
Really? Okay.
Pretty dead on what happened. Yeah.
I gotta ask, does it have anything to do with, sexual allegations, past or present?
No. Absolutely. No. Nothing with that.
What did they tell you when they came to you and said, "Brian, we're taking you off the movie, it's over"?
It was a letter that someone sent to my lawyer, I think.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But they didn't give you a specific reason?
No. The reason, there was a statement that was released that was not particularly accurate in my opinion. But that's
Well, what was the inaccurate part?
I really can't get into that. I want to open myself to any legal arguments at the moment.
Didn't it bother you though that like they didn't give like a clear-cut reason why Bryan Singer is no longer on this film?
Because the reason would be, in my opinion, inaccurate and embarrassing, and who wants to put out that?
12/20/2017. Allegedly, Matthew Morrison's Hawaii vacation was paid for by David Geffen as a reward for keeping his mouth shut about the orgies he threw for Bryan Singer and friends. And he doesn't think many IDs were checked at the orgies. Which is just another way to say underage orgies. Monday, December 4th, 2017, blind item number 4. This married alliteration actor has not really been seen since his hit network show days. Yes, I mean he has done some one-offs and had some reoccurring, but nothing like that show. Right now, he is trying to avoid talking to anyone about those orgies he threw for the missing A-list director. I'm guessing there were not many IDs checked at the door. 11/16/2017. Empty Blind sounds like it's about David Geffen and his biographer Tom King. Allegedly, Geffen, quote, had him killed. 6 months after the death, the two detectives who had been handling the case got themselves contracts paying them $500,000 a year for 5 years for Geffen's company. Blind item number 10, the cold case payouts. What do you do if you are one of the richest, most powerful men Hollywood has ever seen? Well, if someone does something you don't like, and the entire world is discussing it and you, then you take matters into your own hands. Almost 2 decades ago, that is exactly what happened. The person who did the something the whole world was discussing was found dead. No reason was ever given. None. Every single person interviewed said that the deceased person had been in perfect health and took no drugs. Every single person interviewed was shocked that the person died. This was not a nobody who died. Our powerful man in Hollywood had him killed. 6 months after the death, the two police detectives who had been handling the case got themselves contracts paying them $500,000 a year for 5 years, working for a shell company owned by the powerful man. Probably just a coincidence. Before they left the force, they made sure the case was closed and they took anything that could possibly lead back to the powerful man. Fucking stoned. I got a motherfucking spaceship. Oh, fuck. Cool, I got it.